The first time Pastor Daniel Whitaker saw her, she was standing in the back pew of a small brick church in Tacoma, Washington. It was raining outside. Washington rain. The soft, endless kind that feels like the sky is whispering secrets. Daniel believed in signs. He had built his life on them. He believed God arranged meetings, softened hearts, repaired broken souls. So when he noticed a pale woman with ash blonde hair and guarded gray eyes lingering after service, something stirred in him. Her name was Elena Morozova. She said she was from Russia. She said she had come to America for a new beginning. Daniel was 42, a respected pastor, gentle voice, calm presence, a man who counseled others through betrayal and loss. He had never been married. He often told his congregation, "Love is patient. Love arrives in God's time." Elena arrived in autumn. By Christmas, they were inseparable. The congregation adored the story, the American pastor and the mysterious Russian woman who found faith in his church. It sounded like a redemption arc, like destiny, like something meant to be. Daniel believed she had been sent to him. Elena believed something else entirely, the marriage that looked like a miracle. They married the following spring in a modest ceremony overlooking Puget Sound. Fog rolled over the water like a veil. Daniel's mother cried softly during the vows. Elena smiled for photos. She played the role beautifully. She learned to say amen at the right times. She joined women's Bible study. She cooked borscht for church gatherings and spoke about her difficult childhood in Russia, cold winters, strict parents, hardship. People leaned in when she spoke. There was always a hint of tragedy in her tone. Daniel defended her fiercely if anyone questioned her past. "She has suffered," he would say gently. "Let her heal." For the first year, they were happy, or at least Daniel was. But Elena never quite settled into the quiet rhythm of pastoral life. Washington felt too small. The church felt suffocating. The expectations felt like a cage. And Daniel, kind, forgiving Daniel, was predictable. Safe, too safe. The man from Miami. It began at a charity fundraiser in Seattle. The church had partnered with a Haitian outreach organization, raising funds for hurricane relief. The event was large. Business owners, volunteers, donors. That's where she met him. Jean-Marc Delacroix. He was tall, sharp-dressed, confident in a way Daniel never was. A Haitian entrepreneur who had moved between Miami and Seattle working in logistics and import businesses. His voice was smooth, his laughter magnetic. He spoke French, Creole, English, and he spoke ambition. Elena felt something she hadn't felt in years. Excitement. Jean-Marc noticed her immediately. She wasn't like the others, quieter, observant, calculating. They talked by the bar for nearly an hour. Daniel was across the room shaking hands, proud that his wife was making connections. That night, Elena didn't mention Jean-Marc's name, but she remembered it. The first lie. Affairs rarely start with passion. They start with small permissions. A text, a coffee, a secret. Jean-Marc messaged her first. Enjoyed our conversation. Would love to continue. She stared at the screen for 10 full minutes before responding. Maybe. The first meeting was harmless. Lunch in downtown Seattle. She told Daniel she was volunteering. Jean-Marc talked about business, about opportunity, about the thrill of winning in America. He told her she deserved more than small church life. He never insulted Daniel directly. He didn't have to. Elena filled in the blanks herself. By the third meeting, the glances lingered longer. By the fourth, the line was crossed. And once crossed, it became easier to erase. The pastor begins to notice. Daniel was not a foolish man. He counseled couples for a living. He recognized distance, subtle shifts. Elena began guarding her phone. She criticized the sermons. She complained about money, about how other pastors live better lives. She traveled to Seattle more often. One evening, Daniel found a receipt in her purse, a boutique hotel near the waterfront. When he asked about it, she laughed. "You don't trust me?" Her tone was icy. He apologized. He blamed himself. For months, he chose faith over suspicion, until one night when he followed her. The night the truth broke. It was November, cold, wind slicing through the city. Elena said she was attending a late women's prayer group in Seattle. Daniel felt something unsettled in his chest. He drove behind her at a distance. She did not go to the church. She turned into the parking garage of a high-rise hotel. Daniel waited 10 minutes before walking inside. The lobby smelled of expensive perfume and polished marble. He saw them near the elevators. Jean-Marc's hand on her lower back. Her laughter, different from the one she used at church. Daniel stood frozen. Elena turned. Their eyes met. The elevator doors opened. Jean-Marc looked confused. Daniel said only 4 words. How long has this been? The silence that followed felt eternal. The choice to let go. There was no screaming, no public scene. Daniel asked her to come home. Jean-Marc left quietly, sensing something heavy and irreversible. At home, Elena did not cry. She did not beg. She simply said, "I am unhappy." Daniel's voice trembled. "Do you love him?" She hesitated. That hesitation told him everything. For hours they talked, or tried to. Daniel offered counseling, forgiveness, a reset. She said she needed space. Then Daniel did something unexpected. He let her go. "If your heart is elsewhere," he said softly, "I will not chain you here." He offered divorce. He offered to protect her reputation. He even said he would tell the church it was his fault, because Daniel believed love meant sacrifice. But Elena heard something else. Exposure. The fear of public divorce. Elena understood small communities. She knew how rumors spread. An affair would stain her forever, especially as a pastor's wife. Immigration scrutiny might follow. Her reputation, her social connections, her carefully built image gone. Jean-Marc began pulling away. He hadn't signed up for scandal. He hadn't signed up to be the man who destroyed a pastor's marriage. He liked the thrill, not the fallout. Elena felt control slipping. And Elena did not handle loss well. The plan, it started as a thought, then a solution. Daniel was gentle, trusting. He believed in reconciliation. If something happened suddenly, if tragedy struck, she would be the grieving widow. Sympathy would replace scandal. Insurance would solve finances. And no divorce would stain her name. She began researching quietly. Poisons, medical conditions, undetectable substances. She studied his routines, his nightly tea, his blood pressure medication, his early morning jogs. Every loving habit became an opportunity. The final supper. It was a Tuesday night in March. Rain tapped softly against the kitchen windows. Daniel had spent the day preparing a sermon about forgiveness. Elena cooked his favorite meal. She smiled more than usual. He thought maybe healing had begun. She prepared tea before bed. He thanked her. "You're still my wife," he whispered gently. She looked at him for a long moment. There was something unreadable in her eyes. He drank. The death. At 3:12 a.m., Elena called 911. Her voice was frantic. "My husband, he's not breathing." Paramedics arrived quickly. Daniel was declared dead at the hospital. Preliminary assumption, cardiac arrest. He was 44. The church was devastated. Elena wept publicly. She wore black. She accepted casseroles and condolences. She delivered a trembling eulogy about God's mysterious will. And for a moment, it worked. The lover who couldn't sleep. Jean-Marc hadn't spoken to Elena in weeks. After Daniel discovered them, he had distanced himself. But when he heard about the sudden death, something in his stomach tightened. Elena called him 2 nights after the funeral. Her voice was calm. Too calm. "It's done," she said. He didn't understand at first. Then she told him. Not everything, but enough. "I couldn't risk divorce," she whispered. Jean-Marc felt the air leave his lungs. "You did what?" She tried to justify it. Said Daniel would have ruined them. Said now they were free. But Jean-Marc didn't feel free. He felt trapped. The conscience. For days he barely slept. He replayed their conversations. Her obsession with reputation. Her fear. Her hints about permanent solutions. Had she been serious even then? Jean-Marc knew one thing clearly. He had never agreed to murder. He began avoiding her calls. Elena grew anxious. She sensed withdrawal again. And this time, she couldn't control it. Jean-Marc walked into the Seattle Police Department one afternoon. His hands shook. I think my girlfriend killed her husband. The investigation reopens. Authorities reopened Daniel's case. An autopsy had already been completed, but toxicology had not yet been thoroughly analyzed. When they re-examined samples, they found something unusual, a rare cardiac toxin, administered in small quantities. Over time, not enough to raise suspicion immediately, but enough to weaken, to trigger failure. Detectives interviewed Elena. She maintained composure until they mentioned Jean-Marc. Her face changed just for a second. That second was enough. The arrest, 6 months after Daniel's death, flashing red and blue lights illuminated the quiet church parking lot. Congregants watched from windows as officers approached the parsonage. Elena opened the door calmly. Mrs. Whitaker, the lead detective said, "You are under arrest for the murder of Daniel Whitaker." Her mask finally cracked. "Jean-Marc," she whispered under her breath. As they placed her in the squad car, rain fell again. Washington rain. Like the night Daniel first saw her. The trial. The courtroom was packed. Prosecutors laid out the timeline. The affair. The discovery. The proposed divorce. The financial pressure. The research history on her laptop. The toxin traced to a supplier she had accessed through an online contact. Jean-Marc testified. His voice shook as he admitted the affair. "I loved her," he said, "but I never agreed to this." Defense attorneys argued circumstantial evidence. But digital footprints do not lie. Neither do toxins. After 3 weeks, the jury deliberated for 6 hours. Guilty. Second-degree murder. Elena showed no emotion when the verdict was read. But when the judge sentenced her to life with the possibility of parole after 30 years, something flickered in her eyes. Not remorse. Regret that she had miscalculated. Karma's twist. Daniel's life insurance policy? Invalid. A clause voided payout in cases of spousal involvement. The church sued to redirect funds to his family. Jean-Marc left Seattle entirely. His business partnerships dissolved after the scandal. Elena lost everything she tried to protect. Reputation, freedom, control, and the irony, the divorced Daniel, offered freely would have spared them all. The letters from prison. 2 years into her sentence, Elena began writing letters to the church, to Daniel's mother, claiming she had been manipulated by Jean-Marc, claiming spiritual warfare, claiming innocence. But the evidence remained, and no one responded except one person, a true crime podcaster who received one of her letters and began asking questions about whether the Haitian lover exaggerated his confession. Online debates reignited. Was she a master manipulator, or was there more to the story? Authorities stood by the conviction, but whispers lingered. The cliffhanger. Last year, a forensic review board announced they would re-examine archived toxicology procedures from several cases in Washington during that time period, including Daniel Whitaker's. Not because they believed she was innocent, but because laboratory standards had changed. If new testing slightly alters the toxin concentration findings, it could reduce the charge or reopen arguments. Jean-Marc has reportedly refused further interviews. Elena remains in prison, and Daniel's church still stands. Every Sunday, someone new stands at the pulpit, but some say the sanctuary feels colder, as if the walls remember. So now I ask you, was Elena always capable of this? Did fear push her over the edge? Or was Daniel blinded by faith in someone who never loved him? And here's the question that divides people most. If Jean-Marc had stayed silent, would justice ever come? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Because sometimes the most dangerous betrayals don't come from enemies. They come from one standing beside us in church. And somewhere in a Washington prison cell tonight, a woman with gray eyes may still be rewriting the story in her head, convinced she was never the villain, or waiting for another opportunity. What do you think?